word. This is a very quick message just to say if you're playing Borderlands 2 at the moment, during the podcast I speak a bit about the final level, what it looks like and what the end boss does. I didn't think it was a spoiler, John did, and he was probably right. So if you get to that point, stick your fingers in your ears or skip it. Done. Spoilers.
Well, thank you for that considerate interjection. You interrupting goddamn asshole.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Chet and John's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. My name is Chet Roivers and with me as usual is John Denton.
Yeah, boy.
You should know the routine by now. We've got two top 10 lists, take it in turns, back and forth. 40 minutes, almost certainly not. And number ones are the games we've been playing the most over the last 7 days. So John, shoot.
Let's do it. My number 10 is Borderlands 2, Boards 2. Borderlands 2, I talked about it last week. It's going to be the martyr for this year for me. I can tell already. Nothing to do with the game. I really like the game, but it's not as appealing to me as games that are later in the list that we're going to talk about later that are very exciting. It's not as much my type of game as these games are. And when I put it on this week, I put it on to try and force myself. It's like, okay, you don't want to leave this one behind. You've got to play it. And within a couple of minutes, I just think that this short slot I've got to play video games in right now, I'd rather be playing one of the games I'll talk about later. And yeah, I'm kind of worried. I don't want to. I really like it. I mean, it was hardly an analytical number 10 there because I've not played enough to even talk about it intelligently. But I guess this happens to people who game a lot, and like to keep up with everything. Inevitably something gets left behind, and it's looking like it's going to be Borderlands 2 this year for me.
It does take several steps down in essentialness, but by virtue of the fact that you've not got people to play it with. It is a co-op game. I know you said that you imagine that you're having the full experience, but you're really not until you've got three guys beside you.
No, I've repeatedly said I'm sure I'm not having the full experience.
No,
just said I'm still having fun, but I'm sure it would be much more additive with other people, but it's a struggle to organise that. That's what I said.
Okay, because when you said I don't need no people, I'm fine on my own.
A lone wolf.
That's my mistake. My number 10, I can't even remember what the full title is called. Something in Paradise. It's the new Naughty Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Trouble in Paradise, Chaos in Paradise, whatever.
Who cares?
Exactly, who cares? I mean, I quite liked the first one, sort of. I just thought it was all right. I liked the concept, and I turned this one on, and it's exactly the same. They've used whatever engine they used and whatever assets they had. They've done. It's exactly the same.
Naughty engine.
It's I don't know what engine they used. It doesn't really look like anything. It doesn't move like anything. Is it their own? I don't know. Who gives a shit? I kind of liked the first one as shit as it was. The concept was of this sort of guy, the child's TV narrator on the thing. I thought it was all right. This one, the first one, yeah. This one, I played it for all of about 5 minutes. It's massive. I mean, the other one was open world, so to speak, but this one is just huge. And I was like, there's all these millions of bears, and I was just like, I can't be bothered to do this.
What did you do in it? I didn't play the first one.
It's a stealth.
Kill bears.
Yeah, and you can also fuck with them by like cutting the phone lines, or when they try and scarper, you've got to make sure they don't get.
Why have they got phones?
Why are they wearing hats?
I didn't know they were.
Why are they walking around? They're teddy bears. It's a stupid, dumbass idea for a game that I thought worked up to a point. I mean, I remember installing it when I reviewed it, and it was smaller than most XBLA games. This is bigger because it's set in a bigger world. But I've already spent too much time talking about it. It's crap.
This is a downloadable one, is it?
It's 1,200 Microsoft points.
Right.
It's dog shit.
Yeah, I'm not going near that shit. Another game is 1,200 Microsoft points, although I probably spent a lot more on it, is Rock Band Blitz, which I've only had a few games on this week, and so I don't want to talk about it too much. We talked about it way too much on this podcast, but still fantastic, still getting very frustrated by your scores, and we'll continue to play it, especially when there's downtime. That's not going to go anywhere. I'll be sessioning that up for a long time.
Okay. I'll speak about that later, perhaps.
Sure you will.
very briefly. My number 9 is Bike Race on their iPhone. I met up with 2 old mates the other day, and they were bickering and arguing and swapping this phone, getting high scores on this game. And I was like, "What is it?" And they're just Bike Race. I was like, "Well, okay, And it does what it says on their tin.
Yeah.
It's you tilt to do sort of your spins and tricks and stuff, and to land safely and accelerate. I mean, it's so straightforward.
What's it? Motorbike.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just about high score based. It's so straightforward. From what I can see, there doesn't seem to be any system to make money out of it. It seems like it's purely a free game, but there seems to be lots of content on there. I only had a few games in it and whatnot, but I was like, wow, yeah, this is really good, and it's completely free to the point where I'm pretty sure I pissed around in the menus for a bit. I don't think even there's DLC or buy extra tokens and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's really good. What did I call it? Bike Race. That was it.
Bike Race.
It's a good one.
So little motorbikes doing tricks.
Yeah, you can't
style, or was it a bit more straightforward?
No, it's really straightforward. I mean, you can roll forward and roll back. I mean, it might get more sophisticated later on, but it's high. It's all about high scores, and it's not complicated at all. It's really good. I mean, it's just it's free, so get it. Bike Race.
All right. Yeah, I might.
Do that.
Yeah, I need a new iPhone game actually, because the only iPhone game I've been playing for ages is Super Hexagon. Again, talked about it too much. Won't dwell on it. It's still really good. Like the fact that high scores are not high scores; they're times. I was reading someone else talking about this, or listening to someone else talking about it. It kind of makes it more of a direct comparison. That's not the right word. A direct record of what you're actually doing, rather than an arbitrary number which has come out of nowhere, that's using some algorithm. This is how long you can last. I kind of like that about it. Well, I like the other people talking about it way more intelligently than I just did. Yeah, Super Hexagon. I need a new iPhone game, so maybe I'll get Bike Race.
Well, it's not going to cost you anything, so you should definitely do that.
Yes, I will. I'm going to write it on my piece of paper, and that means I won't ever get it.
Exactly, yeah. Beat me to it. Okay, my number 8 is FIFA 13. I have had a couple more games on it. My decision was made already about whether PES or FIFA was going to be my football game of choice, but I keep going back to it because a friend of mine's got it. But every time I put it on, I think this is going to be a hand-me-down that I possibly might pass on to a brother or something, but it's something I don't want to get rid of, because there's something so amazing about the package. And although I deep down I know that I probably will never find the time to do Ultimate Team again, it seems so stupid that I'm not spending time with a game that's as polished and as just generally excellent as it is. I prefer Pro Evo. So I mean, that's it. I doubt I'll speak about it again, because I've convinced my mates
on from FIFA, and as I've said, I really admire the game and it's certainly the package, but same as.
But my mate is now, who I was playing FIFA with, has now got Pro Evo.
Yes.
So there's no reason for me to continue playing with it. As much as that makes, I feel stupid, but hey ho.
Hey ho. Yeah. Hey ho sounds like something a Sackboy would say. Look at that for a segue, which is my number 7, LittleBigPlanet Vita. Yeah, that was shit. It's still really, really cool. I've not played a huge amount of it. I just wanted to kind of switch it on and look at it a bit more again. It's definitely one of those games that you'd show people if you had a Vita to show off to people and you wanted to show people what it can do. It does look like the PS3 version, and it's such a good-looking game as well. I haven't travelled anywhere in the last week, so that's when I'll get stuck into it, when I've got 2 or 4 hours on a train or something, and then I'll play it properly then. But yeah, it's still really nice. That's kind of the end of my weaker part of the list. It's all fucking solid stuff from here on out, so be excited. That's what I'm saying. All right.
If I still had a Vita, or if I even ever had a Vita, I'd probably want to play that, although I don't think it'd grab me. Right, my number 7 is Fable: The Journey.
Didn't do very well, did it? 37.
Yeah.
Hearing there's some layoffs or something at Ironhead, which is a shame. Although there's always layoffs after a game's released with contractors and stuff. But I hope it always sucks to hear stuff like that.
Yeah. I still think it's a really underrated game. It's a very good Kinect game. It's like Kinect Star Wars. And it takes most of the problems with Kinect into account, but not all of them. And I still think it's good. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I've heard some decent things from a few different people whose opinions I respect. So, yeah, and you. So,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, sounds all right. I will never play it. But,
yeah, I mean, it's far from perfect, and there's the problem. I mean, the thing is, after a while, the combat the projectile-based combat, because what happens is Kinect makes a guess at where you think each corner of the screen is, so it kind of just guesses. And after a while, you start to learn where it thinks everything is, and you start to do all right. And after a while, I was like, this is actually working. And then I went up, got a cup of tea, sat back down, and you have to sort of rework out all that stuff, and it's just a pain in the neck. It's too sophisticated for Kinect. I think they overshot the tech. But then there is a safety net which I found where after a while, when you throw a projectile out, you can swipe in a different direction to sort of replot where it goes.
Okay, like a ricketeer.
Yes, but the initial one is very, very specific. But when you swipe, it's a lot more forgiving, and it tends to just get the enemy because it doesn't involve that much. It kind of does it for you in the way that the first one should have done. So that saves it to some extent. I still think it's very good. It's flawed as fuck, but as a Kinect game, it's a very good one. What can you do?
Yeah, so it's a kind of on-rails, horse-loving combat game within Fable's world.
Yes, and it's stunning. It's a proper AAA release.
Really?
Yeah, it looks incredible.
See, it almost makes me want to play it, but who am I kidding? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. My number 6 is a motion control game to a point as well. It's called The Unfinished Swan on PSN. Have you heard of this?
Bits and pieces, but I don't understand what it is.
Okay, so guys, it's quite a funny one to explain. Basically, you play as a kid called Munro. He's an orphan, and he disappears into a painting, or I think that's what happens, or a dream, or some bollocks. And the whole world is just completely white. You can't see anything, but you have a paintbrush, which is your move controller. And you can just splash paint on the world, and it will hit like walls and corridors and doors and stuff, and you start to build the world around you by splashing paint on it, if that makes any sense. So you can see everything. Kind of like if you're doing one of those etchings and then the picture starts to come through. So from a tech point of view, it's really, really cool. It's like one of those things that you go, wow, another amazing idea that video games have come up with that just doesn't really exist anywhere else. But the problem with it is the game, for a long period, doesn't really have any what class as gameplay. It doesn't. All you're doing is trying to find where to go. It's in the first person, and you're just like moving, going up steps and stuff. But that's, to me, the most annoying thing about all video games is not knowing where to go and wandering around in circles. And this is a whole game based on that premise. So from that point, it sucks. As it moves forward, it does come up with some nice ideas, but every time it comes up with an idea, like slightly later on, your paintbrush can fire water instead of paint for some reason, and then that can make vines grow in the world, and then you can use them to climb walls you didn't think you'd be able to climb. So it's a cool idea, but it just overuses it and overuses it and overuses it to the point where everything just feels like busy work. So ultimately, it's just one of those games where you kind of admire it artistically, and you appreciate the effort and the aim and the endeavour of the people that created it, and I think it's just mainly one guy, but ultimately it doesn't. There's no emotional payoff. The mechanics don't really do anything for me, and it was quite abrupt. And I think it cost a tenner. And bringing price is always a bit funny because money's different for everybody. But it was quite slight. There's nothing else. Once you've done it, you can go back and get collectibles, but they're not really worth collecting. And there's no like freestyle mode or anything, which would be cool with a tech or something like that. And it kind of wants to be Journey. There's actually a reference to Journey in the game, but it doesn't have that. Even though that game doesn't really have many mechanics either, that's kind of like a special and wondrous thing. And we've talked about why before, but
it's also still a game.
It is a game, and this is a game. It has some puzzles later on, and there's some like nods to Portal and Limbo, and it does get better. But then it just ends, and yeah, it's not one of those ones. We talked about Journey and even Fez to a point where it's like you've got to try it to see if you like it. Regardless, you might not, you might, but you've got to put the money down just to see. This isn't a game that I'd say that about. No, I wouldn't recommend this one.
Yeah. I've read bits and pieces, and the fact that it's so polarising, again, that always interests me. But how much is it?
It's a tenner in England, $9.99.
So the same price as Journey.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, you could say it probably lasts about the same amount of time, but Journey felt so amazing, and this felt pretty boring. And the fact is, I know I'll go through Journey again, probably when I'm totting out my games of the year. Whereas this, I was just happy when it finished because I didn't want to be in the world anymore. It was just frustrating and boring. And with Move, it's actually a nightmare. So I moved back to the DualShock very quickly. Because it turns into kind of platformer at one point where you're just having to make jumps and stuff, and it's just way too cumbersome with the Move. But it would be alright if I had the little thing, whatever you call it.
The nunchuck thing.
And yeah,
I've got that. I might
but even so, it still would be way easier to play on a DualShock.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
yeah, it's a bit disappointing. That's what I say, because I admire anything that tries to be different like that.
I to be honest, I looked for an excuse to get those PlayStation ones out because it is impressive tech. I do like getting them out. So.
It's the best motion controller, definitely.
Yeah, because there's so much competition there.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 6 is a game called Zombie Driver on the Xbox 360. I actually reviewed this a couple of years ago. Was it a couple of years ago? Maybe not that long ago on the PC. And when I played it, I was like, it came out at a time when Xbox Live Arcade and PSN were really blowing up, and I was just like, why the hell isn't this on those? I don't understand why this is a PC only release, and it's taken them a while, but they finally brought it to console, which is where it belongs. It's a top-down driving game where you drive in a cab and there's zombies everywhere. It's all incredibly straightforward. Most of it is fetch quests, but you upgrade your car and you've got mounted guns and stuff, and you kill zombies driving around. I mean, it's incredibly simple. There are 100 other games out that are exactly the same essentially, but this is a good one. It's really enjoyable. It's really enjoyable. I mean, what I've said is exactly what it is. There's some annoyances, like you're supposed to think you can go anywhere around this neighbourhood. You're in like a sort of suburbia, but there's all these walls that you can't get past, so you can take a wrong turn around the back of a house and you have to go it's a minor complaint, but it's good. There's they haven't done anything to it. It's called Zombie Driver HD, but it looks almost exactly as I remember it on the PC. And there's some cool modes. There's a Micro Machines like sort of battle mode, which is imperfect but fun. It's a good package, and it's only 800 points. It's at least have a look at the trial. If it sounds like something that's up your street. I mean, there are so many games like this. I mean, it reminded me of that game that Sega brought out that everyone had a fap over briefly, the co-op one.
Which one was that?
It was half price at Christmas. Everyone I know bought it. What the hell was it? It's a Sega top-down racer. It was kind of like the A-Team. You were on these vehicles, and it was all co-op.
Shit, no, I don't know that one.
And you periodically were in helicopters or something. It was a good laugh. The annoying thing about this is that there's no co-op, and I don't even think there's any local multiplayer. But I haven't played it enough yet. I'm going to play it again later tonight. But this is I've played it for enough time to be able to say that it's definitely worth a look.
Tough time of year though. For a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it's 800 points.
Yes,
seeing as
I do.
Nothing, not even Naughty Bear had the bottle to give itself that price point. But yeah, worth a look at the trial. I don't think it's out. I think it's out next week. It might be this week.
Okay, Zombie Driver.
Download the trial. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, always worth doing a trial.
Genuine.
Number 5 is PES. PES 2013. It's your number 5 as well.
Yep.
Sweet. So I can't even find. They've made such great strides, and I've talked in detail about how good I think this year's game is, and then they release this update, and you get these messages immediately from Konami. It just sounded like a little like hard done by guy who's been in the office for sort of 14-hour days for how many weeks. Oh, the patch doesn't work. We're really sorry. We're trying to fix it. We're going to postpone all the features. And then you get another message saying, oh, and this doesn't work either. Sorry. And you're just like, man, some things never change. You never quite get it right. But I kind of like that about it. But all the things that they said did work afterwards. So I don't know what they're talking about, but I think you're supposed to be able to download the new summer transfers and things. That didn't work. I don't know. But the game, I played some online games. They were all awesome. Loved them. So, yeah, that's going to be a mainstay, and I'll keep the amount I talk about it down to a minimum.
Yeah, I've I absolutely love. I love playing it online. I thought I had the best game a few weeks ago when I mentioned, but I had a game the other day that blew it out of the water against. I always forget. What's Messi's team?
The Barcelona.
Barcelona, that's it. Yeah. And I was Man City. And there was something during this match and during a previous match, which I lost. I was really thinking for a minute. They've got through balls completely wrong. Because this guy that was playing as FC Barcelona and the guy before too, ping pong passing, pop, 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 through ball every time someone's there running on. I thought that I was 2-0 down at half time because he kept doing that, and he should have been 4-0 down, to be honest. But at half time I re-strategized. I really put it into perspective, pissed around with my settings a little bit, and in the 90th minute, an overhead kick off a corner, 3-2. I threw my pad down on the floor and I went and stood with my arms out in front of my kitchen door, which is next to the TV. And I stood there, just face to the door. And I just waited until I heard the rest of the match play out. And he had a shot, which sounds like it almost went in, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was just like, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Did you save the goal?
You can't do that online, can you?
Yeah, you can. But you go to highlights after the game and then you can just press X, blue button, square on PS3.
Well, it saves all the highlights?
It will save that highlight that you're on.
Oh, right.
And then you can go back in, watch it. You can, watch it with the free cam and everything like that. And you can save tons and tons. Sorry, I just hit the microphone there. You can save tons and tons. So I've got a couple of goals saved on mine.
Well, it was because I actually panicked and I pressed pass instead of shoot. So the header headed it to someone and they did like an overhead kick. Right. I was just like, I've never been so thrilled. But yeah, like the thing you said, it is emblematic of the whole experience. There's the whole patch thing, yeah. And have you tried the online tournament system?
Oh, I couldn't get it to work.
It feels like a PS2 game, literally a PS2 game, pre-Xbox, when they first. I mean, was it before or after Xbox when they had that? They went online with that Xcom game, the first online PS2 game. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was around. It may have been before. It was around that time anyway. Yeah,
this is one of the reasons why I don't want to get rid of FIFA, because I signed up to a tournament. It's a confusing menu. There's all these times, like the start times, and it won't let you enter if you're a few minutes after the start, or obviously if you're before. You can't sign up outside of a few minutes after the start time. I jumped into one. I was having one of the most awesome games, and it was in the 80th minute. Message comes up. Sorry, this tournament's over now. Click back to main menu, and I was like, how difficult can it be to implement a system whereby if you've gone over the time, it lets you finish the match and you're still in it? I was just like, how? It's so backwards. The fact that they've left stuff like this to the last minute. It's so prehistoric. This is like when I used to play Unreal Tournament when I was like 1. It's so unsophisticated. How can you do that? Sorry, tournament's over. You've overrun the time limit. What?
It's just that one guy. It's the same guy who wrote the messages. Yeah. He's still there now.
I don't know how I can love something so much and it just fucking slaps me in the face every 5 minutes.
It's always been like that, though. Since the olden days, since the SNES, it's always been a bit shit.
No, on the SNES, there was no.
The ISS and ISS Deluxe, not quite the same series, but same ballpark, same team.
Well, I remember. Obviously, you didn't have to worry about online with Pro Evo 3 and 4, but man, I just didn't. I was just like, you stupid game. You're so amazing, and yet you just do things so badly sometimes.
I'll tell you what's weird, a complete tangent. You know that song in Pro Evo, if anyone's played it, they'll know it has an accordion in it. And everyone knows it because it plays 1,000 times. Yeah. A guy in the UFC came out to that song.
No, he didn't.
An American guy, yeah. In the co-main event of the UFC this weekend, he came out to that song. Utterly bizarre.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I know. Yeah,
who would have that as? Who would? If I wrote that music, I wouldn't associate myself with it. That's obscene.
Yeah, it's not exactly going to get you pumped up for a fight. He lost, so maybe that's why.
It's all the song's fault. I've actually got the UFC to watch, so I'm going to watch that possibly tonight or possibly tomorrow. I'm going to just be sitting there waiting for that moment.
Okay, it's the co-main event. A really tall white guy.
Okay, right. So that was my 5 as well. So whose turn is it?
So my number 4 is Resident Evil 6.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone back to it. I've been playing the Chris campaign.
Best one.
I've been a bit up and down on it so far. Played like the sort of first chapter and a half, which is a decent size, decent chunk, and Yeah, I mean, I can get why people have immediately jumped on its back, because it's like all the explosions and helicopters and army people and all that sort of stuff. But I kind of took it more as a bit of a parody and a pastiche, or one or the other of those types of games, rather than directly trying to copy them and be like them. Even though it kind of is, I don't know. It certainly didn't bother me that much, because, and the reason why is it still really felt like modern Resident Evil. And yes, it's very shooty, but I have to say I'm playing on veteran instead of normal, which I don't know. I haven't played on normal yet, but it makes the fights quite tactical, and you have to use all the moves in your arsenal to just get through your standard shooter. You know, the throwing yourself to your back, rolling around, the crouch, the slide. You need all of that shit. The quick shot, which is a really cool mechanic. A lot of the real negative stuff I heard about the game doesn't mention any of those things. And if the game was a standalone game and it wasn't Resident Evil, you know, people would be using all the mechanics. So
yeah, but it doesn't explain most of them.
Piss poor job of explaining them. So you do have to read that that article that I tweeted. I'll tweet it again in case people missed it off the Chet and John's Twitter. But yeah, if you do start using those moves, it does become quite an interesting shooter, and especially as the enemies you're fighting in the Chris campaign, the way they mutate, it's like a dynamically shifting battlefield. And yeah, I had a couple of like real standout shootouts in the Chris campaign so far that have been really super tense, and I really had to use my brain as well as my trigger finger, for want of a better phrase, to succeed. And then there's a couple of bits which are a bit shit, like the camera's a bit dodgy in the whole game for some reason. It just makes me feel a bit queasy when I play it. And yeah, just there's one bit like towards the end of the first chapter where you're rescuing hostages, which is just a bit of a pain in the ass. But I'm just not hating it. I like it, man. I like Resident Evil 6. I'm sure I'm going to continue liking Resident Evil 6. And by all accounts, some of the best stuff is later on in the game. So yeah, I don't hate it. I hate to think that a lot of people have been getting on the bandwagon and just jumping on the fact that it's shit because it's not Resident Evil 4. And it's like, yeah, it isn't as good as Resident Evil 4, but it's damn sight better than 5, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm with you completely, and I do think people have been short-sighted when they've been talking about it. Do you think, they discovered DLC on the disc?
Yeah.
Do you think Capcom's intention was to give that away for nothing?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably I don't know why I bothered.
I think that was a wise PR move to do.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
The whole DLC on the disc thing, I've never really made up my mind about that, to be honest. Whether or not I care.
To be honest, I haven't either really given it. I think it is a little bit shady.
Yeah, my initial reaction every time I think about it is that shithouse. But then I just think, well, is it just an easier way for them to do the thing that they would have done anyway? It's not like you were ever going to get that content. I don't know. Like I say, I haven't come to a conclusion, because ultimately you can't have an opinion on everything. And eventually I just stop caring once I start thinking about things too much.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, and I've actually seen arguments from both sides that are reasonably compelling, but yeah. I don't have the time to get involved in it.
That's it. So if I'm going to think about it long enough to get annoyed or passionate about it, then I'll be missing out on doing something actually productive with my day. So yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Genuine. But yeah, Resident Evil 6, underrated to fuck.
Yeah, it's going to take me forever to play through it, but it is. I'd say that is the game that's keeping me from playing Borderlands at the moment, because there's other stuff later on the list which are more essential. But that's the one that I put on when I took Borderlands out. I was like, do you know what? They're both actiony, but this is more my jam. Oh no, I'm not even going to say that. This is more my thing.
What were you going to say?
When people say this is my jam,
oh,
that's really annoying.
Oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I stopped myself, so I'll let myself off.
Watch it top list of most underrated games ever in about a year. That's just going to constantly start happening. People are going to go to, I saw it for 20 quid. I'd heard it was terrible. I thought I'd have a look, and oh my god, it's actually really good. We got that to look forward to.
You played the Mercs mode?
A little bit. It's as good as it always was.
Yeah, I can imagine that being quite good with the quick shot, because that seems really good for crowd dispersal. And
with a co-op partner.
Yes. Unfortunately, I've not played with a co-op partner yet, but I'm a lonely man.
Genuine. Okay, my number 4 is Borderlands 2.
Okay.
I think it's tremendous. I still think it's tremendous. It's one of many games that I was looking to cut off so that I can basically say I'm done with it, and I'm now done with it because me and the friends I was doing it with completed the story mode. It's still fantastic. I have to say that the finale is my jaw wasn't hitting the floor, but it wasn't far off. It's one of the most generic endings to a game I think I've ever seen. I actually thought, are they really going to do this? Have a guess where it was set.
The moon?
No, something that you were set in an area surrounded by something. You were surrounded by
too
lava.
weird question.
It's not,
right.
How many games end where you're surrounded by lava?
Yeah.
It's like everybody who's ever lived wants to pay homage to Terminator 2. I don't understand it. What happens when you kill the boss?
He turns good and then falls in the lava.
Another big. You're well off form tonight. I swear to God. He turns into another bigger boss that takes 3 times as long to.
So it's because you said Terminator 2.
Right. Okay. I didn't even see that.
You haven't seen Terminator 2? That was pretty good.
Okay. Right. Let's stop this right now. Yeah. So you're in lava. We were descending into a cave.
Oh, is this just a massive spoiler?
Is it the environment a spoiler?
I don't care, but people might.
Is it a spoiler? It's the environment. I won't say what happens. I suppose I've just told you there's 2 bosses. There's 2 bosses and everything. I'm really sorry about that. Maybe I should put a spoiler warning at the beginning. Who cares about story in Borderlands? Although the story's really good.
But yeah, but we can't presuppose that people might not.
I'll put a spoiler warning at the beginning.
All right.
I'm going to tell you what the fucking background looks like. Anyway, you descend into this cave and it's hell. I can't tell you how many times I've walked down into a cave and there's lava everywhere. I mean, I should have compiled a list because it's beyond generic now. I was actually like, are they going to have some fun with this? Are they really doing this for real? And then when the end boss dies and is replaced by a bigger end boss that takes 3 times, I was just like, this is, and it's just overkill. It's overkill. The amount of time that it took us to take down the final boss was obscene, the amount of time. And we found this little cubby hole where we couldn't get hit, so we were just standing there shooting for probably the best part of 15 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, this is overkill. There's nothing enjoyable about this. This is bullshit. There was a blight on an otherwise fantastic game, and if I had all the time in the world, I'd definitely go through it again with friends, but I don't, so I'm glad to cut loose of it. But it's going to be in my top 10 of the year for sure.
Damn.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not getting rid of it, and be there sitting side by side with Skyrim now as my games, which I will go back to. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough, and then more stuff's coming out next week. And Anyway, so another one of the reasons why Borderlands slipped down was Xcom, which I've been playing this week. Xcom Enemy Unknown, I think is the full subtitle. This is the game everyone's been raving about, and was always going to be the game out of this period of the year where I was a little bit unsure because I never played the original. I remember it existing on the Amiga when I was a kid, but I mean, I was too young to understand games like that when that was around. I think I was about 7 or something. And, well, I don't know. I just wanted to play like Mario, and there was Mario on Amiga. That was the huge part of the sadness of my young life. Anyway, Hexcom, the new one. Since then, I've learnt about turn-based strategy. Played Advance Wars thanks to you many years ago, and fell in love with the genre to a point, but never really explored it. But was really excited by how people were talking about this game's constantly throwing up stories, like non-scripted, emergent stories on the battlefield, because you have your soldiers and they stay persistent through the missions, and you can name them and everything like that, and you go attached to them, and as they level up. And it's so true. I played the first few missions outside of the tutorial, which probably takes about an hour itself. And I have become attached to this little band of soldiers. I lost a couple. And, I wouldn't say I was upset, but I can imagine if I'd done 10 more missions with some of these guys and I lost one, man, that's going to cut me up. Because at the moment I've got Nigel Benn, and he's now my best guy, and he's a badass. You were my best guy, but for some reason, and I think it might be something subconscious going on here, I put you on a roof out in the open and with no cover, and you got killed.
Cheers.
And as I was doing it, there was something in my back of my brain going, this is stupid, but the main part of my brain was like, no, he's got higher ground. This is definitely what the game told me to do. But yeah, there's something something weird going on there, I think. And then our mutual friend Zeno died on his very first turn, running out of cover, just got shot by an alien, dead, useless. So I told him, obviously. But,
when you say that these are people like me and Nigel Bent, are you just the names?
Yeah, you can customise how they look, but I've done it based on how they already look, if that makes any sense. So, you know, I had a black English guy, and for some reason I just thought Nigel Benn had a tall white English guy with a beard. That's you. You know, so however they look, I think whoever jumps into my head first that I know or is on TV or something like that looks like that person, that's how I'm doing it. Yeah, the game is so far so good. It's so clever. The tactical side of it's great, but it's not like overwhelming so far, and it gradually introduces things that you go back and you build your base as well, but nothing's overwhelming. I always worry about this type of game. It's too much for my brain, but it's really not. It gradually introduces every element, and then you're dealing with a lot of information at once when you're back at the base, but in a way that you can manage, or I can manage anyway. It's difficult to kind of describe the base side of it without having to see it or play it, but it's like you're in control of this Xcom team, and you know you're scanning the whole world, and there's different countries need help with this alien invasion. You have to pick, shit, am I going to help Australia, or am I going to help China? If I help China, they've got better things here, or you know, and then other countries go into panic. All that stuff's clever, and then when you go into the missions themselves, just you've got your 6-man squad. Mine's actually a 4-man squad at the moment, but you build up to 6, and it's just a really, really well-made turn-based game that constantly throws up new things that you never know what's going to happen next. Like your little troops can panic and freak out, and they lose their will to fight, and one actually turned around and shot one of their teammates, and yeah, it's so cool, mate. It's such a cool game. I'm very excited to play that.
What are you playing it on?
Xbox.
Yeah, I've got it sitting here and I haven't touched it yet. I'm going to make a start on it tomorrow, but I have a feeling that it's the way people are talking about it, and the way people used to talk about Advance Wars. And Advance Wars, a game that I once tried to play with my nose because I kept my arms bent so long playing it that I just had to leave them like straight for hours on end because I just made them ache so much. I'm sure that I'm going to fall head over fucking heels in love with it, but I haven't.
Almost definitely sure you will.
Have you played multiplayer?
No, people say that it's good, but that's not really what the game's about, because the game's about fostering these relationships with your...
You can do that online as well, though, right?
Can you? I don't know. I thought
have
it was
no idea.
But everybody who's played it and finished it says it's all about the single player, really.
Oh, fuck. A turn-based strategy should be all about the multi.
But you've got the base stuff as well. That's like 50% of the game. So it almost gets on kind of Mass Effect in the choices that you have to make, but not as direct. You'll see when you play it, it's really difficult to explain that side of it, especially to someone who's not au fait with the genre completely. But yeah, I thought that it would get me, and it has straight away.
Okay. Well, yeah, I absolutely can't wait to get stuck into that. Okay, my number 3, I know it's on your list. Forza Horizon.
Yes, it is on my list. It's number 1, in fact.
Okay. It's absolutely amazing.
It really is.
It's absolutely fantastic. The one thing that as soon as I was playing it and my girlfriend was around, and every 2 minutes I was like, I can't believe how good looking this game is. It's a testimony to how much, if you're working on first party, if you're a first party team working, you know, they must have an insight into how that machine works better than anyone, obviously. Because not only does it look incredible, when you do things that normally, if you're playing Max Payne and you go to the guide, it can you can see that the system's kind of struggling a little bit. If you piss around and send messages and go and see what your friends are doing, it can sort of stutter a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like you weren't even playing a game when I went into the guide on this. It's just like Sony rightfully get a lot of praise for their first party stuff, but Microsoft, this is a gorgeous game, but more importantly than that, it's fun as hell, and it is still FIFA. It is still Forza. It's
really
not,
is.
Not turned to an arcade racer.
No. I saw it being played at the Eurogamer Expo, and I thought, damn, I hadn't really been following it because I don't like Forza very much. Generally, I admire it. It's one of those games, I admire it. I understand that it's good, but I don't really like that type of game. So, I didn't really care about anything with Forza attached to it. And then I saw it being played at Eurogamer, and I was like, oh, that looks nice. It looks like Need for Speed. And then I was commissioning a review for it on Video Game. You can read that if you like to. And within seconds, it's such a cool intro. The way you just... They talk up this festival, the Horizon Festival, and then you're on the road in a really nice car, and then suddenly all these other cars start coming up, overtaking you, all on the way to the festival, and it turns into a race. Such a great intro. And you're flying towards this thing, and they really nail that kind of festival atmosphere. I felt like I was actually at a festival. The cutscenes and stuff are a bit, rubbish, but they weren't too offensive either. I didn't find.
But the cutscenes are. That did feel like focus group rubbish. I mean, to be honest, I didn't respond to the whole concept of this festival that's like Coachella in the desert, but it's all about cars. I didn't respond to any of that. The cutscenes, the fact that you're playing a character, which you've never done, obviously, in a Forza game before, and there's a love interest, and there's a sort of wise-talking black guy who takes you off on illegal street races. The whole thing, I was just like, this is bullshit. But that's what the guy's making it think. They treat that shit with contempt. They get it done, and then they leave you to the good stuff. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. There's no undue focus paid to the bullshit that clearly marketing people have sort of imposed on them. Mm-hmm.
But the important thing, it's kind of got that arcade racer open world structure, but with everything that's good about any of the other types of games in this genre put in there. So you've got the asynchronous play of beating people's times and stuff like that, and lots of information and feedback on that. You've got the way of leveling up and earning more money to buy new cars, which you can then tune Forza style really in depth, or you can do it automatically if you're a bit stupider like me. You've got all little side missions you can do, stuff to find in the open world, but fundamentally the best moment I had in the game was I earned enough money to buy a Lamborghini, bought it, and I thought I'll just race to an event, and it was so nice to drive. I play weirdly in the in-car view in this game because I don't know, it just feels right for some reason. I had the 5.1 headphones on behind the wheel of this car. There was a good tune on the radio, and I just drove. I didn't go to an event, I just drove, and I drove all the way into the mountains, and I was just drifting through this mountain trail for ages, and I just put the pad down afterwards, and I was like, this game is fucking amazing. It's absolutely superb. It's just like, it's a joyous experience to be behind the wheels of these cars, because they don't feel like, they feel amazing to drive. It's not, the handling isn't so serious that you can't do it, but at the same time it's not, like you said, that arcade, don't have to brake type, just slide around every corner handling. You feel like you're driving this car, and the physics are just, they're a joke. they don't even I can't even understand how they're that good.
I think I when I wrote a review, I tried to stress as much as possible that this is still Forza, and you're kind of encouraged to take the stabilisers away, the sort of assists, so that you get to having a driving sim. But you don't have to do that. There's nothing stopping you.
Just scale it down to where you're comfortable, which is what I've done, taken the racing line off and things like that. Yeah. But I scaled a bit too far and I couldn't drive, so I just put a couple of things back on, and then you find everyone will find their sweet spot, I think.
Yeah. It's great. Have you tried playing online?
I tried briefly, but it seemed a bit more standard than how some of the games in the genre are in that respect.
It takes a little bit from Test Drive Unlimited, a little bit from Test Drive. It takes that thing where you pull behind people and you sort of signal them, and then you can race them straight away. And the sort of multiplayer challenges from Burnout Paradise, from what I can see, I went online for a bit with other people who were reviewing it, I guess, and we weren't talking to each other, so we were up shit creek, because the whole thing's open like it is in Paradise, but most of the challenges, from what I could see, are all based on all 3 or 4 of you passing through a speed camera or going through a stretch of road at the same point, doing the same speed. There's not like loads of really cool challenges like in Burnout, so it seemed like they were testing the water. Mm-hmm. It's fine. I'm glad it's there, but it's not. Not. It wasn't incredible.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed the single player.
Yeah, me too.
I'm all right.
They owe such a huge debt to Criterion, though.
They do.
They really. There's so much that's taken from them. As soon as it started, and there was a radio DJ who sounded exactly like Stryker from Burnout Takedown.
Yeah.
And then it was just, there were all these things that they'd borrowed, but they've still kept it as Forza. I mean, this is, for me, it's the best game because I was exactly the same as you. I don't respond to sort of straight-laced, petrol head. We're taking this all so seriously. There's no story. There's no this. Although the story on this is rubbish, I prefer it to nothing but menus and numbers and details about cars, and so I mean, I think it's absolutely tremendous. Honestly, do it's something else.
Yeah, it kind of really came out of nowhere for me to be this good. I wasn't expecting to love it, and we've got Need for Speed's coming out in a few weeks as well. So it's a treat for this type of game. But I love Forza Horizon. So good.
Yeah, and it doesn't have
feel of the cars.
What?
The feel of the cars is just.
Oh, I will say that there's nowhere near as many cars as there were in 3 and 4 at all.
No.
Nowhere near. And what was the other thing that I noticed? Oh, friends of mine are going to be devastated. I mean, they're all getting it because I've got a couple of friends who are hardcore into Forza, but there's no auction house at all. And that was such a massive part for some people.
There is, isn't there?
No, there's no auction house. There's no. You can't do designs and auction them online.
You can.
No, you can't.
There is a marketplace thing.
What do you mean a marketplace thing?
I'm sure you go to marketplace and then you log in online. I'm sure that's in there.
No, it's not, because honestly, that's the one part. A mate texted me saying, "Tell me there's an auction house," because that's all he does, and I don't understand how it works.
I'm sure it's in there.
It's not. There's no auction house in Forza Horizon. I put money on it.
Right.
Which is something that, like I say, hardcore fans are going to be quite disappointed with. All the one, because it's not the kind of thing I'd ever touch, but some Forza nuts, that's their favourite part of the game. And it doesn't have Jeremy Clarkson in it, so automatically it's 10 times better than the last one.
1,000 times better.
That's when I put that in for review, I put the disc in. The first thing that happens is there's a shot of a car, and you hear Jeremy Clarkson's voice say, God. "You're a dying breed, you and me." I came so close to just switching the fucking thing off.
I was really tired that day as well when I put that game onto a review back then, and then it happened, and it's like, I can't do this, man.
You're a dying breed, you and me. Fuck off. You and me are nothing. You're nothing to me. You're dead to me, Jeremy Clarkson. Piss off. I don't like Jeremy Clarkson, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But I am a fan of Forza Horizon.
As am I. Big fan. I mean, like, top 10 games of the year fan, almost certainly.
Yeah, I can see it there. Although I think I've said that about 25 games.
So have I. But this really is breathtaking. Really is.
So where are we in the list? I'm confused now.
That was my 3. So what's your?
Okay, my number 2 is a game that I'm pretty sure is in your top 2 as well. Is Dishonored.
Number 2.
Okay. So I've done the opening little bit, the sort of tutorial bit, and then the first proper mission. That's what I've done, which some people have said you can complete Dishonored in 4 hours.
Probably can.
It took me, I guess you could. Yeah, you definitely could, but I think I've been playing it in total for 4 hours, and this mission took me 3 hours. And what I said afterwards, after I put down the pad, and I was saying this, when I play, I talk to myself. I'm weird, but I guess probably other people do as well. But I put down the pad and I said, that was one of the best levels I have ever played in anything ever. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And by all accounts, there are other levels that are better. But I was just like, that was everything that I could ever have asked this game to be encapsulated in one level. I just thought it was amazing. I barely even know where to start. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, okay, phew. I thought you were about to go, oh, shit, mate, and then I felt like an idiot.
Yeah, I was about to do that. No, it's a masterpiece. It is incredible. It's an incredible experience. Which mission are you talking about? Which one's the first one?
I think it's called the High Overseer. He's a guy that I don't want to spoil too much if people haven't played it, and there'll be plenty of people who haven't yet. But the final part of the mission involves like a drink. That's what I'll say. It's the first proper mission.
Oh God, this is the fucking shambles of my memory. I'm not sure. But with regards to how long it takes, the worst thing you could do is buy this, play it, and rush it.
Oh God,
because I've had to review it, and I had to have a cut-off point. I thought, have I done enough? Am I far through it enough? Because missions I've played it so much over the last week. I mean, it ate into my whole Friday night into the early hours was just. I probably didn't even do a couple of missions. And it's the best testament to it is that if ever there's a game where there's the option to sort of play it as an action game and an option to take it as a stealth game, I'll always take the action route. Always. That's just the kind of games I like.
Right.
This, I'm spending hours just standing around corners listening to what people are saying, trying to find different ways in, sort of poring over stuff that's written, and it's, you know, just little trinkets that you find and stuff. And when you work out, there's so many things. There's always, it's like the sort of what was I speaking about in relation to this? Just the amount of variables that seem to be going on at one point. There are always all of the different things you can do, all of the different ways you can choose to level up, and the way that you can use those skills to manoeuvre around the place, to take guys out. I mean, there seems a ridiculous number of possibilities.
And none of them seem to be favoured or encouraged, or you're being pushed towards that way. Was it in Deus Ex Human Revolution, which is it's a perfectly good game in its own right? You know, there was vents everywhere in really weird places, and you're just like, okay, well, this is the way you want me to do it if I'm doing this type of playthrough, and if I'm doing this type of playthrough, this is the way you want me to do it. You know, here's a computer to hack to do this. And I actually found that quite boring in the end. And this, I mean, I've only done the one mission, as I said, but my playstyle, which probably changed. I mean, I did most of it stealthy, but fucked up at one point and hacked a few guys up, which is excellent in itself, I have to say. The melee combat is superb, and the way you can mess with the AI is amazing. But honestly, I feel like I could talk about it for about an hour, just that one mission, everything that happened. I mean, if you don't know what it is, first-person kind of Hitman game set in fictional Industrial Revolution style, English style town, although everyone speaks in an American accent, very stylized. And the idea is to carry out these hits, and you can do it like the Hitman games in many, many different ways. But unlike the Hitman games, it just seems a bit less trial and error. I don't know, it felt a bit more natural the way I ended up in the position I ended up in and doing it. It felt like I was kind of nudged towards doing it that way, but it felt like it was my own decision, and I was working things out along the way, and just breathtaking. So good. It's a joke how good it is.
I don't know how far through it I am, but I've spent so much time, like I said, and I never do things like that. And I love the fact that there's no lessons. The amount, all of the lessons that you learn yourself. And the best one that I had. I mean, also another thing. I've said this about another game this year, and I forgot what it was. The writing is not show-offy. It's not something that necessarily people would respond to, but it's so succinct, and it doesn't draw attention to itself, but in its own way, it's very, very effective. And there were a couple of occasions where I almost literally spoke to my TV in response to someone. And the first bit, I think maybe that was the mission that you're talking about. One of the earliest missions in the game, you're going to a mission to assassinate someone, and this isn't a spoiler. Someone comes to you and says, I know what you're doing, I know why you're going there, and I know that you're going to kill that person, but please, as a favour to me, spare someone else. And I got to this job. It took me God knows how long, because, but it didn't have to. And I killed this guy, and then this guy I'm supposed to save came running at me, swiping his sword, shooting. I was like, and as soon as I pulled the trigger, I was like, I should have fucking run away. And that was a lesson that I've learned. You can always run away. That's one of the most important lessons. But I remember just thinking, fuck. But that's the other thing I did.
But even hearing you doing that, like I don't want to spoil anything, but I did that whole thing so differently that situation would never have even occurred the way I did it.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that was me learning that lesson. They could have explained that to me, but they didn't. And I remember I was walking back, or I got the boat back to the sort of hub, as it were, and I saw the woman who asked me standing on the dock, just looking at me, and I couldn't even face her. I was just like, "Fuck! All right, I fucked up." And I didn't even look at her. I just walked past. I was so pissed off that I was stupid enough to pull a trigger when I could have just ran, and I realised it as soon as I pulled the trigger. And she just said, "What did she say? I should never have expected anything more from you," or something like that. And I was just like, I almost said, I fucking tried, it was a fucking mistake. I was so engaged in what was going on that I was just like, and because the dialogue's succinct, that any other game that would have been a woman crying and fucking it would have been something other than what it was, which was just a really pissed off woman just saying something really cutting to me, and I was genuinely like, fuck, I'm so sorry, it wasn't my fucking fault. But that's another thing I'll say. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, every other game site on the internet apparently is having sort of articles based on people doing it a different way, set out with an agenda for sure. But I've made it a point. There are things when people, I've been playing it and things have gone to shit several times, but I'm not going to go back to a save and try and do anything differently, because I think it tests I think you need to be aware of how far you can go, because the chaos meter that you build up when you start killing people determines how people react to you, how many rats are in the areas and stuff like that. And I think it's important to test that. I think it would be doing the game a disservice if you constantly kept going and doing over stuff that you did wrong, because there's nothing wrong. There is no wrong or right answer. You can always.
I agree. I have done it a few times when I've done things have gone to shit because, like, I've tried to blink the teleport move, and instead of going up on the roof, I've fallen down, and then they spotted me or something like that. And it's just like, okay, well, you know, I could have a fight here, but I'll reload it. To be fair, actually, it wasn't me reloading; it was more me just getting killed when I fucked up and getting spotted, and then I'd just get killed because there's too many dudes. And yeah, I probably could have got out my gun and killed them all, but I didn't want to do that, so I just but I wouldn't want to completely quick save my way through the game to do it exactly as I wanted to, because then it's not an organic experience, and you know, you don't. Some of the greatest stories that will happen out of that game are when things go wrong or when things go right, and you know, or you manage to escape, and then that's changed the whole patterns of the AI. That was one brilliant bit that happened to me. Is I got spotted, but I immediately escaped, and then they couldn't find me again. And what happened from then within this enclosed space with the guys would never have happened any other way. And in many ways, it was better than just picking them off one by one or running past them. Yeah, and that coupled with the detail in the world, and there's so much to see, and so many little cool things to find that add colour, and wow, yeah, I was blown away, man. I was absolutely blown away.
It does. I have to say, the first mission didn't stick out to me as one of the, because I've done one of this awesome mission where you have to disable some lights. I think it's something like that, and I spent hours doing it. And
that's that mission.
No, where you have to get up to the top of this tower.
Oh no, that's not that mission.
Yeah, it's a huge, like, you traverse a huge space, and there's one bit where there was I was presenting.
No, don't spoil it. I don't want to know.
Okay, well, all I'll say is that there was one bit where I was just like, I don't see how I'm going to get past this.
Okay.
And then you just ponder it for long enough, and you're like, and I mean, because that was one sequence where I kept failing and I kept trying different things and stuff, and just realising how many different things can work in so many different ways. It's one of the most open and sort of open to however you want to deal with it games that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And there are problems. It's not visually, it's not the most amazing looking game.
Yeah, not on consoles. It's not. No, unfortunately, this is one of those victims of the PC version being clearly the best version.
Yeah. But there are things wrong with it. That's primarily actually that's the only. I did think of something else that I thought was.
I thought the very beginning, the prison escape was a bit dull.
I thought it was okay.
In retrospect, it was fine, but I was worried. It's like, is this the game? Is this all that the game's going to be? And then it's like, clearly not. I'm picking holes for no reason. There's no reason to even pick at it.
But even if you do, everything that's wrong with it, and there is nothing. There was something that I've thought. Well, to be honest, I don't think the AI when you're in combat is not brilliant. You just kind of stand there and wait for them to strike, parry, and then kill them in one. I think that's quite that. But you try for the most part to avoid combat anyway, so that's not an issue. And everything about it, everything that's not perfect, the visuals or whatever, were because I like to think they put so much work into the rest of it. It is actually a masterpiece. I can't wait to play it some more. It's incredible. It is incredible.
Yeah, I can't wait. Pumped. So that was both our number two, wasn't it? My number one was Forza, which we talked about a lot already. So Forza's wonderful.
My number one, it is wonderful, really. My number one's Rock Band Blitz.
Of course.
Yeah, but still playing it. They've mixed it up again. What they do internally is they change how powerful multipliers are. So I'm going in and trying to beat high scores, and I'm getting nowhere near them because they've tinkered with stuff. That should be really irritating, but I need a new challenge, so bring it on. I briefly flirted with the idea of buying it on the PlayStation 3 as well, just so I could sort of start from scratch and do it all again. I've linked my.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it was ever really a possibility, but who knows? I've linked my Facebook with my Rock Band account, and that's quite neat. You get extra coins and stuff for doing challenges, but it is geared more towards people who are playing Rock Band 3. So it's like get 4 friends, complete 10 songs, you win coins. So it's kind of nothing. It was implied that you win DLC, and you blatantly don't. But yeah, it's Rock Band Blitz, so it's clean.
Yes, certainly is. But I can imagine I'll be taking a little bit of a break for it as this silly season continues.
Yeah.
But a good silly season because we've had loads of cool stuff to talk about this week, and I'm sure loads next week and throughout the rest of the year. So thank you very much for listening. That's the 2 top 10 list done. And remember to check the website, thefiniteplaylist.com, check the Facebook, check the Twitter, check the Stitcher. All sorts of things happening on there, namely the podcast is going up and you can listen to it. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.